Hi everyone, this is Mary Michon at Bensell Greenhouse in Toledo, Ohio. It's the first week of September here in the Midwest. I have brought all my plants in from outdoors. They're already inside the house except for my orchids and my cacti. So I'm going to talk to you about getting your plants in now before it's too late. Everybody waits to the very last minute. So this is perfect timing for Midwest. Our nighttime temperatures are in the 50s and a lot of your plants. And I've kind of gathered a few things here to try to represent possibly what everybody has outside. But this is a time for you to start thinking about temperatures to get your plants inside. Right now, I don't have my heat is not running at my house. My windows are still open. And so the air quality outside is very similar to inside. If you start waiting until our temperatures drop down into the 40s at night, even lower threat of frost, now your house is going to be heated. You're going to be anywhere between 65 and 70 degrees in your house, and it's going to be 40 degrees outside. You have a drastic temperature change that your plants now have to acclimate to. And what you're going to see is leaf drop, shedding. Sometimes the plants will get too stressed out that they may not even be able to acclimate. The watering quality when you have no leaves is going to change, and people are going to start making phone calls here and saying, what do I do? So let's start thinking now, everyone, as we drop into the 50 degrees at nighttime. And if you're in other locations other than in the Midwest, the same rule applies. So you're going to get colder a little bit later in the season. And so that's what I'm trying to tell people. When temperatures in the house are very similar to outside, that's when you start bringing your plants in. So we're going to talk a little bit about a few different things other than just the temperature outside. And like I said, I've gathered a few plants to represent what I have and what you may have outside. So we're going to talk a little bit about what to do when you bring your plants inside. All right, so a few things that I do before I bring my plants in is, first of all, as we get into fall and our light system is changing, the sun is not as intense, we're getting more dreary days. Here in Toledo, our winter months are very, very cloudy until we get into colder January and February, we have more sunlight. So as we're moving into the fall and winter and there's less lighting, you don't need to be fertilizing your plants. So you should be stopping the fertilizing of all your plants. You don't need a lot of growth throughout the winter when it doesn't have the light to support it. So fertilizing is going to be slowing down, if at all, and then you're going to just kind of maintain it. And I'm sure there's exceptions to all of these. You may have some plants that constantly need to be fertilized. I'm just saying, as a general rule, most of our plants, because of our lighting in the fall, should not be fertilized frequently like you may have been doing throughout the summer. The next thing that I do before I bring my plants in is I check the root system on these plants. A lot of people have kept their plants in their pots for a very, very long time, and now they're becoming pot bound. When you bring that plant that is pot bound into the house with the drier winter air, you're going to have to water it more frequently because the humidity outside has helped you to not have to water as often. Now you're bringing your plant indoors. And so really you need to check the plant, check the pot, and make sure that the root system is not so thick and full that that water is just going to drain through quickly when you water throughout the winter. You want to pull your plant out of the pot. And I did this with the bougainvillea. And I looked at this guy. He looks beautiful. He's ready to continue to grow root systems throughout the winter. And it's not going to be that much growth anyway. So this guy is fine. I do not need to trim the roots on him. He's going to be okay. But what I did do is I did come in here and I did trim him back a little bit so I don't have this massive amount of foliage with minimal lighting throughout the winter. So that's something to consider. Trimming the roots if they're gnarly and thick. Cut it by 1/3, give it some good fresh soil. What happens then is through the winter, the root system grows back. So by the early spring, now that plant has a great root base, and all of a sudden in early spring, you'll start seeing new growth coming throughout your foliage plants. They'll be ready by the spring and late spring to be brought back outside. All right, and one of the last things that I always do before I bring my plants in is I check for pests. And I check for pests on the bottom of my pots. A lot of my plants are in clay or ceramic, and I usually wipe down the outside of the pot, the bottom of the pot, and I start in the root system and look for anything crawling throughout the root system. But I have a lot of plants that have, really wild nooks and crannies where bugs like to harbor. And so one of the things that I do is I either take a big bucket of hot soapy water. If it's a larger leaf like this, I'll wash the underside. I'll take wet soapy rags and I take one in one hand and one on the top, and I'll do a little hand pressure and I'll wash down through the stems. You can even lay a plant like a ficus ali or a regular ficus tree on the ground and throw a warm bucket of hot soapy water on it and then rinse it off, and then that way your chances of bringing in certain bugs are going to be less. But I check all the nooks and crannies. For example, a ponytail palm, there's going to be little things down inside. So just giving it a good washing, a good spraying down before you bring it in is going to help you to eliminate a lot of problems. The biggest issue that people don't think about is you're going to bring your plants in and then they're going to come into a very quiet, still air home. And what happens is usually by December, January, when the heat's been running a lot, you have drier air, that's when the bugs start flourishing. So I recommend everybody, every 2 to 3 weeks after you bring your plants in, go back and recheck your plants for any possibility of a bug starting to make its way throughout your plant system. Start checking your leaves and do that especially December, January, and February. You're going to catch a lot of bug problems before they become a nuisance. So good luck, everyone. I hope you get your plants in soon. They acclimate well. Call the greenhouse if you have questions. If you are looking at this on YouTube and want to ask questions that way, please go ahead. We'll get to them as quickly as we can. Good luck, everyone, with fall plants.